Hello guys, welcome back to lesson 3 discussion. Almost feel like I should be wearing a mask, but we'll get this on the way. So I'm not the greatest with public speaking, so I definitely have some key points that I have written down. So the situation we have here is, I should have it pulled up. Whoops. Okay, OB Classic, the Jim Donovan case. And the question is, something else I don't have pulled up. The question is, how have the perceptions influenced the behavior in this situation? How could these perceptions have been better managed? Alrighty, so let's get to it. Jim Donovan, the situation Jim Donovan was put in by Jim Bird is literally just a chip off the ice block of literally stereotypical prejudice. As tragic and tasteless and outdated as perceptions is, it doesn't alter the fact that it's a common practice, yet undesirable, of humans today. Literally, very common. Stereotyping takes place when someone, it's important to know what it is, and it's really when someone within a group is labeled by a characteristic. Common stereotypes are race, age, gender, and even though there's a bunch more, it's indecent to go over them. It's indecent to go over into depth about a negative perspective. So we're just gonna cut it right there. We all know what stereotyping is. Stereotyping is unprofessional because it's improper to judge an individual based off of superficial standards. In the case Jim Donovan, Don Bird is literally, I like to think, or I like to ask the question, do we think he's unconsciously selectively screening him? I think it's a little kind of common sense because of the situation, which I'm going to get to in a moment. It appears off rip, Don Bird immediately had a negative perspective of Mr. Donovan when Mr. Donovan scheduled a meeting over the phone with Mr. Bird. He is perceived as young and furthermore pinned him with his age with inexperience and inexperienced quality. You know, he's too young, so he's inexperienced, which is very common today, practice today. A lot of ums. That's why I wrote this all out. I didn't write it all out, but you know, bullet points. Anyways, under common perceptual distortions, all being defines the halo effect as one attribute of a person or situation that is used to develop an overall impression of the situation. And I like to think that this age thing is literally a huge halo effect that Mr. Bird is literally overlooked. As we learned in chapter 3, Mr. Bird is exhibiting alarming signs of the fundamental attribution error, and that's how I got to the halo effect. Mr. Bird overestimates his 60-year-old generation of employees and underestimates Mr. Donovan's ability to influence Mr. Bird's employees' behavior. Mr. Bird's perception could have been better managed, literally, if he had taken the time to meet with Mr. Donovan and thoroughly vet all of his concerns. You know, communication is key, and he failed to communicate. He just gained one, kind of like, he was set up for failure. And it sucks. That's what happens with stereotyping. That's what people do. If Mr. Bird was able to withhold his prejudice and actually screen Mr. Donovan for a famous product, all his concerns were conveyed but not addressed, then Mr. Bird's claim that Mr. Donovan was unfit for the position would have been genuine based off substance beyond a reasonable doubt, because he vetted him. He gave him the most benefit of the doubt, but he didn't give him any chance. And ultimately, I believe it was an error for famous products to have their previous CEO introduce their new CEO into his position, as the current CEO clearly has a selective perspective of how he wants the future of his business to be managed. He rose to that position to run the company how he wanted it ran, and even when he's got that same mindset for when he even leaves it, clearly. A little too dedicated to the job. I'm just kidding. You can never. But you understand. He had a perspective of how he wanted it to be filled, and apparently nobody was going to fill those shoes. And I think that was very bad on famous products to have their previous CEO introduce a new CEO, although he should have had the professionalism to actually do so. Well, this is my take on this week's discussion. Let me know what you guys think in the discussion below, in the comment section down below. Give my video a thumbs up. I'm just messing with you. Have a good day.